Hey everyone, and welcome back to Every Last Mile. Now our little family just got back from Europe, where we spent a month and a half living out of Airbnbs. So this is everything wrong with Airbnb. First on our list, beds. This might seem like the one thing that an Airbnb would get right, but I can tell you right now that the one thing that we missed most about our home was the bed. Now during our month and a half in Europe, our beds were so unpredictable. You might be looking at the app and thinking to yourself, it tells me how big the bed is and it even shows me a picture, which is true, but it doesn't tell you something like, I don't know, for example, that big luxurious bed is actually two small beds pushed together wrapped in a thin sheet and a nasty crack running down the middle that your infant will inevitably roll and fall into. Or they might not tell you that those two blankets and those two pillows in the photo are actually the only pillows and blankets in the entire apartment. And they also might not tell you that the frame squeaks so loudly that when somebody gets up to pee in the middle of the night, everyone in the building is aware that it happened. Now, those might sound a little exaggerated, but I'm telling you, every single one of those happened over the course of our stay. All of those things and more are the reason why beds are the number one thing on our list. Number 2, parking. Now I know this won't apply to everyone, but hear me out, because if this does, this is a big one. Now just like beds, we saw every variation of parking available on premises or street, as it likes to list in the app. But those are not all created equal. So to keep it short, I'll just give you one example. Dublin only offered street parking. That happens in a lot of big cities, and Dublin, for example, costs $3 an hour. What we didn't realize, however, was that in Dublin, street parking requires you to move your car every 3 hours. Think about that. You're trying to get out, you're trying to see the city, just take in everything, get a nice meal, but instead of having the freedom to roam the city and just experience it as it's meant to be experienced, you have to babysit your car because you can't leave it for longer than 3 hours at a time. And on top of that, you paid $150 for the privilege of babysitting your car. Now I know that every place is different, but trust me, when you're looking, even in the suburbs, places that you're sure have good parking, make sure to verify that because it can ruin a place for you. Number 3, check in and check out. If you've ever stayed in a hotel, you know the process. You show up at 3, you give them your credit card number, you go to your room. When you leave, you just show up at the front desk, make sure it's before 11, and that's it. Not so with an Airbnb. So an Airbnb can set their own rules for check-in and check-out. And what does that actually mean in practice? That means check-in and check-out is whenever they say it is. That means when you're going to check in the front door key, it's not on the front door every time. Sometimes it's up the block, behind another building, locked to a fence somewhere, under a rock. You're gonna go check out? It's not just show up at the front desk and turn in your key. You better do the dishes. You better go lock up the car park. You better turn off the heat and electricity, and you better do all of that before 10 o'clock. Now, not every Airbnb is like this, but it doesn't disclose to you that these are requirements until after you've booked your stay. So make sure when you're staying in an Airbnb that you check those things, and if you need to, rebook or cancel, especially if the check-in and check-out process is unreasonable. Number 4, breakfast. Now this is a small one, so we'll go fast, but the value of a continental breakfast cannot be overlooked. Now, not every hotel offers a continental breakfast, so I'm not saying always pick a hotel just for breakfast. But what I am saying is breakfast adds up. For many of the cities we stayed in, breakfast could be expensive as $10 a person. So just keep that in mind. You can save yourself a lot of money when you're booking, and it's something that you basically are never offered through an Airbnb. Number 5, cleanliness. This one might seem obvious, but reviewers don't seem to factor in the entire building when you're booking a stay. Now, London, for example, looked great in the listing, and it even sounded great in the reviews, but nobody seemed to mention that it was under a hookah lounge. Now, that meant that the hallways were disgusting, That meant that you couldn't open the windows because of all of the smoke directly outside your window, and it was so bad that we actually tried finding a nearby hotel to move into. And we would have, but there was nothing available on short notice. All right, number 6, neighborhood. Transitioning right off cleanliness of the building is cleanliness of the neighborhood. Now, for some reason, Airbnb still does not let you get information about the neighborhood the listing is in. We're checking out of Paris. Now, right back there is the worst hotel we ever stayed in. And we said we'd never come back. And somehow, right there is where we ended up staying completely on accident. It turns out when you're hunting for a bargain in Paris, you end up in the same place. So lesson learned, just pay your money in Paris. Just pay your money, because otherwise you end up in a little sketchy neighborhood. There are websites that show you heat maps for tourist activity and crime, but what you won't be able to find out is that your listing is underneath a hookah lounge, or even worse, next door to a brothel. And I'm not joking. When we showed up in Paris, the check-in process was sketchy, and from the train station we realized the neighborhood wasn't great. What we didn't realize is the apartment was down a skinny alleyway. Again, not an immediate red flag because Paris has lots of alleyways. But the problem was the obvious prostitutes at the mouth of the alleyway. Now, we were traveling with a group, so we pushed past and pretended we didn't see anything. But when we saw the neon lights coming out of the apartment next door to ours, we realized what we had done. Now, if we weren't traveling in a group, we would have bailed instantly. But because we were traveling with a large group and the apartment was up some stairs and behind several locked doors, we felt confident that we could make our couple days work. All right, that's a wrap on everything wrong with Airbnb. Do you have your own Airbnb horror story? If you do, leave it in the comments below. Is there something else you want to see in our next Airbnb video? If so, leave that below too. If you found this video helpful, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell. We'll catch you next time. We want to give a special thanks to the Moonlit Studio. We're here recording. We're going to leave a link to their channel below. That's the Moonlit Ghost. If you're into anything paranormal, go ahead and give them a like too. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.